We had two mediators in the talks in Switzerland. Alex, one of them was Pakistan, the other Qatar. Two countries, important ones. And what has happened? The Pakistani intelligence, when Asim Munir, the field marshal of Pakistan, was there in Switzerland, their assessment, the intelligence of Pakistan, their assessment was that Israel wanted to assassinate him while he was in Switzerland. So from their side, we don't know if that's right or not, but the assessment, the understanding on the part of the intelligence in Pakistan that Israel, Mossad, was preparing to assassinate him. So they sent a message to Mossad, to Israeli government. If something happens, you're going to be something big happening to your country. And then the other strange thing that has happened during the talks, it was a huge explosion in Qatar. One of the oil facilities was just, it was something, huge bombardment of some facilities there. Then the Qatari governments came out and said it was a technical issue inside the oil facility, which the technical issue, the assessment again on the part of Iranian intelligence is that it was Israel, and Israel did something in Qatar huge. You look at the explosion; it's nothing of a technical issue. That explosion. So it doesn't. Yeah, all of this, the assessment on the part of Pakistani and Qatari, the explosion in Qatar, it brings some sort of understanding that Israel is trying to do everything to destroy the talks, whatever it is. It's a negotiation, whatever is happening between the two sides. But the main goal is that at the same time, they're trying to do everything in the United States and outside of the United States to make new obstacles. And do you see, as time goes by, the whole region somehow moving against Israel? Because everybody right now is somehow, they are reaching to some sort of understanding that Israel is not, in favor of any sort, because these GCC countries, before this war happening, they thought that Iran is the enemy, Israel is not that much of enemy. How do you feel about that? How do you see that happening in the region?
Uh, well, we already see initiatives to constitute a West Asian NATO between Turkey and Egypt and Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Pakistan. I think maybe I missed Qatar as well. And they want to create a new security architecture in the region under the leadership of Pakistan. And I think that the reason is because they see that Israel is absolutely rabid. They will not accept any kind of a peace settlements. Israel can practically not exist without war. Arab nations have already, on various occasions, um, proposed a very, very generous peace agreement to Israel, practically satisfying all of their security requirements, recognition, um, not a Palestinian state, but maybe an understanding that some point in the future there will be a Palestinian state and we will guarantee your security and all these things. Israel rejected it all. So, and now, uh, after waging war on six fronts, there's louder and louder drumbeats for war against Turkey. And so everybody in the region sees that Israel is really an incurable threat to their security, that with Israel, their permanent war in the region is practically guaranteed. And they also see that the United States is not an honest broker, and that United States is neither willing nor able to provide them protection as they believed that they had. Because when the war got going, Americans withdrew critical air defense systems from Arab nations to defend Israel. And so I think that the awareness of this situation has now set in. And all the nations now want to, as a matter of their survival, it's practically an existential matter to them, want to create a new security architecture, and they don't want Israel there anymore. And they don't count on the United States as either a provider of defense or as an honest broker in anything at all. And I think that in this, they have full support from China and Russia, who also, for existential reasons, want a new security architecture in the region. And I think that this is why the Israelis are as hysterical and panicked as they are, that they are now ready to wage war on everybody. They're making threats against the United States. They're saying, well, you will see Israel has not yet used all of their weapons. They have much more powerful weapons. And if you don't defend us, then you're the enemy and you will learn your lesson the hard way. They're threatening a false flag attack in the United States because they're saying, oh, well, I guess they didn't learn their lesson on 9/11, so maybe they need to relearn that lesson, which is basically a veiled threat to stage another false flag attack in the United States. But I think that the horse is bolted out of the barn. I think that now everybody hates Israel. They know that Israel, if something happens, if a false flag attack does happen, I don't think that the people are going to think that it was a bunch of Arabs with box cutters, or whatever they try to blame, whoever they try to blame it on, which would be Iran. I think that they will consider Israel as the suspect number one. So it's they have completely painted themselves into a corner. And other than dragging the United States back into war with no holds barred, a total war, ground, air, all the ammunitions, Palantir is talking about reinstating the draft so that all the American young men and women go and fight and die for Israel. Without that, they are lost. They are just basically circling the drain. And I don't see how Israel survives this.
Their problem with Turkey, before the fall of Bashar Assad in Syria, the situation between Israel and Turkey was not that critical. And since the fall of Bashar Assad, you see some sort of confrontation between Israel and Turkey. Just getting back, look at all of the statements of the Israeli officials. Look at how drastically those statements have been changing, since the fall of Bashar Assad. It means that the problem right now is the occupation of Syria, and they see Turkey as as a party in Syria against Israeli agenda in Syria. That's why because many people are correctly arguing Turkey is talking big but doing nothing practically in terms of sending the Azerbaijani oil to Israel. But when it comes to Syria, it's so serious for Turkey. Turkey is not gonna back down on Syria, in my opinion, and Israel knows that. That's why they're saying that the next target gonna be Turkey, and we're gonna go fight in Turkey. And we had Jonathan Pollard saying that, and at the next fight, the next round is gonna be against Turkey, and this is the recipe for disaster for the United States, in my opinion. They have two sort of sections right now: 224 and 662. The two, they want to merge the U.S. military with Israeli one, and U.S. intelligence with Israeli one. And Israel is not part of Five Eyes, but they're basically closer to the United States without having these two sections. They're closer, for example, to the United States than New Zealand or Australia, which these two countries are part of Five Eyes. But they want more. They want to officialize it in the United States. I don't know if you saw what has happened in New York. Three candidates that AIPAC was helping and founding and supporting, they were defeated by landslide in primary. And who was? We had the establishment of Democratic Party against the new movement in the Democratic Party, which is the new mayor of New York, Mamdani. And they were against APAC, not only the establishment of the Democratic Party, against APAC. And they won by landslide. This is the reality of what's going on in the United States, not only on the part of Democrats, you see, on the part of Republicans. So they have to solidify something in the United States when it comes to the military, to intelligence, because they are fearing right now. This wasn't the case before. Right now, they see the sea change that is happening within the society in the United States. That is hugely problematic for Israelis. I think they perceive that.
Yes, correct. But I wouldn't perceive all these candidates like Mamdani as some kind of a freedom movement, some movement that's going to deliver us from all these forever wars. It seems to me that there's a civil war in the United States between two, how do you call it? I would say two cabals, two conspiracies. And one is definitely the Zionist conspiracy, but the other one is is not really America first. It's not really MAGA. It's more like a Trotskyite communist conspiracy. This is the people like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, all those people like Susan Rice and James Comey and Mark Carney in Canada. But both of these cabals, their ultimate loyalty is to the city of London, because they are both the Trotskyite movement and the Zionist movement emanated from London, from the British Empire. And I believe that they still have largely control these groups. Um, for example, I think it was very indicative when this whole Albanian affair erupted a few weeks ago, and it turned out that the Jared Kushner's and Princess Ivanka narrative about how they identified the Sazan Island as a place where they want to build their dream life is that they were on a friend's boat. They stopped over for a swim when they were vacationing on a friend's boat. And who was the friend? Well, the friend was Nathan Rothschild. Okay, so direct link to the city of London. I don't know if Trump is aware of this. I fail to see how he couldn't be aware of it. And then also Mark Carney, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, late John McCain, the people that I would categorize in this Trotskyite conspiracy, they're also back and forth between Washington and London. And so it basically leads to the same epicenter of all these forever wars. The fact that one side wins primary election, I think should not be a comfort to anyone. It's just, because the Trotskyite conspiracy is rabidly obsessed with Ukraine and Russia. The Zionist conspiracy is rabidly obsessed with Israel and Iran, with the Middle East. But it's still that, clash between two systems of governance. And both of these conspiracies basically represent one and the same system of governance. It's just that they have different foreign policy priorities. And I think that both these systems are so deeply entrenched in the American establishment that I don't know how this can be purged for like a genuine MAGA movement and a genuine return to American Republican traditions. But I assume at this stage that it might take a civil war or a revolution, a group of Pentagon generals simply taking over. But, this is it's this could start to happen when prices at the gas pumps go over $10 a barrel and $10 a gallon, and people can't afford to buy food for their children. At that point, you know, things could erupt to a much uglier manifestations. But until then, we're just being torn between two sock puppets that both serve the same master.
Yeah, I think some of it you can find it in one of the recent pieces of Farid Zakaria on CNN. He basically was arguing the war in the Middle East, in the West Asia, was lost. Let's get back to Ukraine. Let's find, let's go.
Yeah.
The same people, by the way, the same people that you just mentioned, the Obama and these people who are close, so much close to that sort of mindset. They're talking about, so if we're not able to continue the war in the Middle East because of the reality of what's going on, we can continue the war in Ukraine. And Ukraine is just changing everything. They have changed everything. They're winning.
Oh, they're practically at the gates of Moscow by now.
Yeah. I think that's true because the mindset is the continuation of the war. This war machine should go on and on and on, not, bring everything down. This is the problem, I think, for those people who voted for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump basically deceived them because they thought that there would be no war with the Trump administration. People like Tucker Carlson, he said that he's not going to vote for Republican Party anymore. He's not going to vote anybody. For more than, he said, 34 years he voted for Republicans, but he's not going to vote for Democrats, not Republican, and none of them. So this is the new sentiment in the United States. It's not only about in the Republican Party. I would say in Democrats, there are people who don't want any of this. None of these sort of wars. We have Matt Ho, our friend of this podcast, who doesn't want it. These people are anti-war. They don't want war. And they don't see any sort of good thing happening to the United States in a long run, not in a short run, because they see how China is somehow. Just imagine what China is doing. China is not part of any sort of conflict, any war. There's so much focus on their economy, on their production. What do they need? This huge machine, this huge engine needs energy, and they have it. They
Yeah.
have it from Russia. They have it from the Middle East. The United States wanted to dominate the Strait of Hormuz. Just imagine if the United States, together with Israel, could do something to the Strait of Hormuz. That could have been a huge loss for China. And right now, that's not happening. And China understands that. These are important issues for China. Energy is the future. Energy is production. And China knows that. But the United States has failed to understand that the future is not about war. Because when you are a superpower, you are a superpower. Basically, look at the military power of the United States going against Iran. Iran is, the defense budget of Saudi Arabia is 10 times the defense budget of Iran. The country is that little when it comes to their defense budget. What, you cannot defeat them. This is the new reality.
Uh, yes, you're right, Nima. And but the reason why Saudi Arabia's defense budget is 10 times Iranian defense budget is because they are buying weapons from the United States. And this is again one of those effects. Okay, so you have a lot of money; it's sitting in American banks, and we're going to tell you how you may spend it. And so they say, well, we're going to provide you protection, but you need to buy all these weapons from us, and they're the best weapons in the world, the most powerful, high-tech, whiz bang wonder weapons that ever existed in the history of the universe. But they're a little bit expensive, and so when they don't allow you to use your money the way you would prefer, then you think like, okay, well, we need security, we need protection. I guess that's what we're going to be doing. And then like it's the thing of buying uh, bolts and bearings for $1,000 a piece and stuff like that. And obviously, it doesn't serve much purpose. It's like those bodybuilders, that take proteins and they build up their muscles, but it's all basically foam, and they look very strong, but they're not very strong. And at the same time, Iran has been developing their indigenous military technology on a shoestring budget. They have been educating tens, hundreds of thousands of engineers, uh, and all these people work for the defense of their nation, for an existential objective. They don't need multi-million-dollar bonuses. They don't need massive salaries. Um, the state doesn't need to sell the most expensive weapon systems like Ferrari and Lamborghini weapons to the Iranian military. They work for their own defense. So they have tried to do the best with what they have. Same with Russia. And so the difference is enormous. And I think that we've seen it in Ukraine, which has gotten practically an unlimited supply of all the most amazing Western technologies, and they're still losing the war. And all these narratives about Ukraine suddenly turning things around and winning the war, well, that's just fantasies.